progressivism in here. Come on in. Who's joining us? Drop a little note in the chat. Where are you zooming in from? What group are you with? Who are you excited to hear speak tonight? I know I'm excited to hear from Public Advocate JUMAANE Williams. I'm excited to hear from Assembly Member Phil STECK about the stock transfer tax. A little wonky, but also super exciting because it's one of those progressive things we can bring online to keep our revolution going and really make sure we fight for a just COVID recovery. Oh, who do we have here in the chat? Hi, Callie from Buffalo. Thanks for zooming in. Thanks for being a part of our revolution. We're super excited. Oh, I see somebody else here. Do we have Al with us right now? Welcome, welcome. Alan, where are you from, Alan? Oh, let's see. Well, I'm Rebecca, and I'm zooming in from Yorkville here in Manhattan right now, fired up and ready to go on progressivism. I got a union brother in the house. Solidarity, TWU, Local 100's here. Shout out for the workers. They're keeping our subways going. Even if Cuomo's cutting service, they're still working hard for us because that's what the labor movement does, no matter what. Who else do we have? Oh, we have Patrick from the Upper East Side. Patrick, my neighbor, give me a wave. Where are you at, Patrick? Hey there, bud. Oh, Marv from Long Island. I'm from Suffolk County, Marv. What are you doing out there? Which county are you in? Nassau, Suffolk. Drop it in the chat. Oh, we also have Maureen from upstate New York. Hi, Maureen. Welcome, welcome. Again, if you're just zooming in to join us, we have some super exciting panelists. We're going to have Assembly Member Phil STECK. We're going to have Brad Lander, current council member running for New York City Comptroller. We're going to have JUMAANE Williams, current public advocate, running for re-election. We're going to have Maria Ordonez, Arthur Schwartz, MOUMITA, AHMED, and I'm Rebecca Lamort here to welcome you in and get us going. I'm our hype woman for tonight. So are you excited? Are you fired up? Are you ready to go? Oh, I think the Assembly member's ready to go. I heard some chuckles there from Assembly Member Steck. How are you doing? Thanks for zooming in.
Very good, very good. You're doing a great job.
Thank you, thank you. Who else do we have here? I'm looking at the chat. Oh, London Reyes from Yonkers. We also have, Sue from Saranac Lake. Beautiful and wonderful beer as well. Hi, Sue. Thanks for joining us. All right, we have a few more minutes. In just 2 minutes, we're going to kick it off and we're going to get our revolution going. I know I'm super excited and I hope you are too. Right now, we're already up to over 50 people here on our Zoom right now. This is super exciting because 2021 is a huge, huge year. I know 2020 was so difficult for all of us and 2021 has so many exciting opportunities ahead. If we fight together, we win together, right? Because it's not about me. It's not about you. It's about us, and that's why we're all here tonight, zooming in together. Who else do we have? I'm looking at the chats. Oh, Deborah Lynch from Chemung County. Oh, Ticonderoga. I think of Fort Ticonderoga for a little upstate reference. Emily Adams from Ithaca. Ithaca is gorgeous. Have you been to College Town Bagels? I love their bagels. As a Long Islander and a New York City resident, this Rebecca Lamort knows a thing or two about good bagels. I can definitely say that, and that's not in the NYPAN program. Who else do we have? Drop in the chat who you're excited to hear speak tonight. Like I said, I'm super excited to hear from Public Advocate JUMAANE Williams, and I'm super excited to learn more about the stock transfer stack from Assembly Member Phil STECK. Anybody else? Anyone else excited to learn about those things or hear from some of our great speakers? I also have some wonderful brothers and sisters in labor with us tonight for NYPAN, some wonderful colleagues also running for city council. Oh, I'm so excited. Oh, we just got from Sue, go Phil. We got a Phil STECK fan in the house. I think we got a lot of Phil STECK fans in the house tonight. It's going to be so great. Oh, one more minute. We're getting so close to kicking things off. I know I'm excited, like I said, and I feel like we are fired up and we are ready to go because we're fired up and we won't take it no more, right, everybody? That's why we're here tonight, to fight and organize together and make all of this happen. This is so great. Oh, it's 8 o'clock. The magic hour has arrived. Now we're going to officially kick things off. We're going to get our revolution underway, and I'm going to kick it over to the wonderful, amazing Naomi, who's going to set the stage and give us some exciting updates. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and let's get this revolution going.
Thank you, Rebecca. That was incredible. I feel like I was at like a Knicks game or something right now. Like I feel like a Knick coming out onto the field. But so good evening, everybody, and welcome to our 2021 NYPAN and Our Revolution kickoff call. My name is Naomi Zodi, and tonight, along with Brian Mangan, I will be your host for this evening's call. Look, like Rebecca said, as a movement, we have a lot to celebrate right now at this point on the cusp of 2021. We worked hard in 2020. We got Trump out of there. We elected progressive champions all up and down the ballot, from Cori Bush to Raphael Warnock, and we advanced our progressive policy conversations. In all of these ways, we advanced our progressive agenda. So we won a lot. We had some amazing successes. And at the same time, we are facing really daunting challenges, both on a national level and here in New York. So we're here to celebrate tonight, and we're here to roll up our sleeves and put on our mittens, you know what I'm saying, and get to work. The number of COVID deaths continues to rise. The economic crisis is leaving far too many of us literally desperate, struggling. There is continued violence and injustice in our streets, and so much more, and we really have no time to rest. So we've got big plans for the months to come. We're going to build on all of the amazing organizing that got us here and all of those, which made all of those successes happen, and we're going to gear up to overcome what lies ahead. So thank you all so much for being here with us tonight and for being part of that movement, really for being that movement for progressive change, because we are stronger together. Brian is going to tell us a little bit more about what we can expect on the call tonight. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Naomi. And thank you to everyone who joined the call tonight. As the great philosopher John Mulaney once said, you could have done literally anything else tonight, literally anything, but you're here, and that makes you guys awesome. So we've got a great group of speakers tonight who are going to tell us more about what we can do to start conquering these challenges that Naomi just mentioned. We're joined by Assemblymember Phil STECK, who's taking time out of his busy schedule in Albany to talk with us about the stock transfer tax, which would raise billions in revenue for our state at a small cost to Wall Street. We'll also be joined by JUMAANE Williams, our public advocate, who's leading the fight for an equitable New York City. Right now, among, I'm sure, the many things that he's doing, JUMAANE is demanding transparency from the city on COVID vaccination distribution, especially to ensure that people of color are not being left behind. And we're also joined by City Council member Brad Lander. He's running for comptroller, and one of his missions is to help our city recover from the COVID crisis in a way that's equal, sustainable, and leaves us better prepared to handle the next crisis. We're also going to hear tonight from 4 amazing progressive candidates for City Council, and we're going to share some exciting endorsement announcements. The 4 candidates that we're going to hear from tonight are Maria Ordonez for Manhattan City Council District 7, Arthur SCHWARTZ, who's running Manhattan City Council District 3, as well as Manny Silva, who has a special election in Queens City Council District 31, and MOUMITA AHMED in Council District 24 in Queens. So like I mentioned, Manny and MOUMITA have special elections, which are taking place in just a few weeks. So everyone, please do not wait. Sign up to donate and volunteer for their campaigns right away. So before we start, just one final note. I want to encourage everyone to participate actively in the chat and to ask questions of our guests. If they have time to answer them, I'm sure they're glad to answer them. The way you do that is if you're on the phone, you can press *3 to submit a question. You can do that to submit a question, volunteer, or donate. If you're watching on Zoom, the best way to do it, we like a very active chat, so please don't be shy. Leave your comments, leave your feedback. But the best way to get a question through is to use the Q&A feature. And if you're on Facebook, please comment and please share the feed with your friends on your news feed and in your groups so we can reach as many people as possible. So thank you to Rebecca Lamort for an incredibly energetic introduction, and to a good friend, Patrick Bobolin, who's going to be handling the Q&A. They're both members of the Upper East Side Progressives that I'm a member of as well. And if you're in Manhattan, especially on the Upper East Side, I hope you'll check us out. I'm going to turn it over now to the great Anna Martavisky from Our Revolution National, who's going to be giving us the national update. Welcome virtually to New York.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Thank you so much, Naomi. What an amazing team over there in New York City. And hello, New York State. My name is Anna Martavishki. I'm a regional organizer with Our Revolution. I'm joining you, all of you, from New Jersey, where I field organize the ground operations here. And today I'm just joining you with a couple of quick national updates, going through our exciting 4-point plan, and also want to highlight a couple of endorsements we are going to be making. So stick around throughout the entire call because this is going to be exciting. It's going to make news. So I just wanted to circle back to Naomi's introduction. We have all witnessed a historic inauguration last week, right? And we have reasons to celebrate. Our movement has reasons to be hopeful right now. With Democrats now in control of both Congress, both houses of Congress and the White House, we have an opportunity, a real chance to make progress on all of our policy priorities, but only if we continue to organize. So we believe that our 4-point plan is the most effective strategy for achieving our policy goals in 2021 and beyond. And the first and most important point in our 4-point plan is, of course, holding Biden accountable. We have started this work already. The president is using executive action, as you well know, to undo many of the harmful policies of the Donald Trump era, as well as he's prioritizing COVID relief and a $15 minimum wage for federal workers. We celebrate this progress. We applaud these actions, but we are holding him to his promises, and we are demanding bold action on other progressive priorities as well, such as canceling all student debt, right? Achieving real, true universal healthcare, racial justice, and other progressive issues that are important to our movement. Second, we need to elect progressive champions at every level. We have done an amazing job last year, right? We doubled the squad. We have Mondaire Jones, we have Jamal Bowman from New York who have joined the squad, right? So that was 2020, but 2021 is bringing its exciting challenges. Nina Turner is running for Congress in Ohio. We have an opportunity to expand the squad even more, and we need all of you for that work. And there will be hundreds of state and local elections everywhere in the country. So we need you to pay attention to those as well. We are going to be fighting in the trenches with many local progressive champions. Third, we need to keep fighting for progressive policies. Our win rate last year on ballot issues was nearly 81%, 82 almost. This year, we will continue to fight for policies like criminal justice reform, affordable housing, and many others nationwide. So 2021 promises to be a year where our movement can make even more progress if we keep on organizing. And the fourth point in our 4-point plan is dear and near to my heart. We are transforming the party. We are the one group on the ground that's really committed to transforming the party from within at every level. We are not only electing progressive champions at the congressional level, we are electing progressives at every level of government. And we are transforming the party by electing more progressives to party leadership positions as well at every level, from local precinct captains to DNC chairs. So that's our work, and we need your help. You might have seen we have launched a sticker to commemorate Bernie's amazing viral moment that everyone celebrated. And this is our current fundraiser. We need you to please pitch in so we can continue our grassroots organizing work. We have state teams such as this team in New York, everywhere in the country, and we are organizing crucial states. So we need your $5 per piece for this sticker, or buy 2, your friend is gonna love it. Commemorate this moment with us and help us keep on organizing and doing amazing progressive and movement building work. We appreciate your help, and we appreciate all of you being on this call with the New York team and some amazing candidates tonight. I will kick it back to Jay. Take it over for our first guest.
Hello, everybody. Our first guest tonight is Assemblyman Phil STECK. He's been elected to represent the 110th district and just won his re-election with over 60%. During his time in the state assembly, he's been a very strong advocate for single-payer healthcare system and raising revenue through the stock transfer tax. Please join me in welcoming Assemblyman Phil STECK.
Well, thank you very much, my good friend Jay Belanca. I'm going to get right to it because we don't have a lot of time here. So New York is facing a $10.2 billion budget deficit, even after getting $3 billion in federal aid, even after increasing taxes on people earning over $5 million per year, even after taxing legalized marijuana and taxing sports betting. So my question is, why are we willing to tax gambling by the poor and the middle class and not gambling by the wealthy? 80% of trades on Wall Street are essentially computerized, algorithmic day trading now. That's not productive. It's not investment. It's what the great economist John Maynard Keynes called the casino effect. The stock transfer tax disincentivizes day trading by imposing a 0.25% fee every time a trade is executed. Volume in Wall Street is at its highest point in history. And for that reason, this tax totally eliminates the budget gap instantly. It raises more than $10 billion a year. Not $10 billion one shot, $10 billion a year. Now, the history of this tax, it goes way back to 1905 when the Republican Party implemented it because they preferred sales tax to income tax and property tax. It never caused any problem in the history of the state. It was very successful. In the 1970s, New York City went into financial crisis, and the revenue from the stock transfer tax was diverted to bail New York City out of that crisis. And when the city came out, then Mayor Abraham Beame persuaded Governor Hugh Carey to stop the stock transfer tax. It's still on the books. It's technically supposed to be rebated, but it's never actually collected. It's just calculated. Money never changes hands. So our work on this has been with Senator James Sanders from Queens, also a Bernie Sanders endorser like myself in both 2016 and 2020. We have gotten together and balanced the needs of the state and talked about where the revenue should go. So for New York City, 25% of it would go to MTA, 10% to rebuild public housing in New York, NYCHA. But there's money for green energy products, upstate public transportation, Amtrak, you name it. The really big push began on this bill with a panel discussion that we had with a very famous gentleman. I can't believe I actually got him to do this. And that's Joseph Stiglitz, one of the most famous economists in the world. He's a Nobel Prize winner and former chief economist of the World Bank, now teaches at Columbia. And Professor Stiglitz joined us and advocated for the stock transfer tax. He talked about that casino effect that I mentioned earlier. Right now, and I've been calling members of the assembly every day. We have 50 co-sponsors out of 105 Democrats. We've got 20 new Democrats coming into the assembly, most of whom are progressive. So we're looking forward to getting them on board once we can get there, once they've set up their offices and we can have a little more contact with them. Now, I want to say this about messaging. This is not a tax on Wall Street. Why do I say that, and why is that important? Because a lot of members of the assembly are afraid that if tax goes in effect, somehow Wall Street's going to move to Topeka, Kansas. I've written a lot on why that's a ludicrous idea, but the point here is this is a sales tax. It's like when you go to the store. If the government puts a 30% tax on a product, you're not going to buy it. But if the government puts a 0.25% tax on it, you are going to buy it. You're not going to care. And if the volume is really, really high of trading in that product, there's going to be a lot of revenue raised. I stress this is and it's paid not by the brokerage firms or by the stock exchange. It's paid by the investors. So if you're in Texas or you're a Texas oil man, you want to trade a lot of stock in New York, you're going to be paying tax in New York, just like we pay tax to Texas to bring oil up here to New York State. Also, a lot of the people that are trading on Wall Street, they're not even from the United States, and the The volume on Wall Street that is traded is at least 5 times that in the entire continent of Europe. So it's a very special place, and that's why people come here to trade in stocks. The second point about this is it's a progressive sales tax, which is unusual because half of the trading is done by the top 1% and the rest in the top 10% of income earners. This is not a financial transactions tax. A financial transactions tax has different components. It taxes bonds, it taxes derivatives. That's very complicated because you have to value the bonds, you have to value the derivatives. The advantage of this is it's on the books and we can start it immediately. So the idea of a financial transactions tax is a very good one, but we are building tremendous momentum. I don't want to throw that away by changing, horses in the middle of the road here. And we just got a major endorsement from the stock transfer tax. The New York State AFL-CIO just endorsed it, and very prominent Democrats in the Assembly have expressed in confidence that they support the stock transfer tax, and there's reasons why that's the case. So we need to keep that momentum going. In fact, I often tell members when I see them or members of the Assembly Ways and Means analytical staff, I only have 3 words to say to you about this budget: stock transfer tax.
So should I ask a couple questions? I've got a couple questions for Phil.
Yeah,
is that my cue?
Ready.
All right. They should be kind of short. So I've got one. If you want to answer super directly, you might be able to cram all of them in. So here's one. Phil, are you talking to the leaders of the Invest in Our New York Coalition about coordinating your efforts with theirs?
So there's a little bit of a disconnect here, which is that a lot of the coalition groups are New York City groups, and we had a conversation last summer about doing that, and I have to be painfully honest, they never got back to me. So we were very willing to do that, but the stock transfer tax is on a different plane than their particular package. We've got a lot more co-sponsors. We've got a lot more commitments. We've got the AFL-CIO now. They have a proposal for a financial transactions tax. Again, no one's saying it's a bad idea, but we've invested all this time, energy, and getting support into the stock transfer tax bill. I think it's a mistake to change horses in the middle of the road right now.
Okay, do we have time for one more?
As many as you
I
want.
have a quick one. Yeah, okay, great. Thanks, Phil, for answering that question from Catherine. I've got, so Nestor and Earl and Karen all have similar questions. They want to know what kind of feedback you're getting from Speaker Hastie and Leader Stewart Cousins, what Cuomo's position is on it, and then also what legislators we need to focus on, maybe for some pressure to pass this tax. Can you wrap all that together?
Let's ask the last question first. I used to have the old bill number. The new bill number is 3353. So if you go to Phil Steck's Assembly page and you look under legislation and you'll look at 3353 and click on that, you'll see the sponsors, right? Anyone who's not on the list, you want to lobby. So I want to go first to Cuomo. The budget director, Mujica, I have to say this, it's a very, very sad moment, is intentionally misleading the public about this by sort of blowing it off as, oh, well, they'll move the computers to New Jersey or they'll start doing the transactions on the cloud. We're a little bit smarter than that. First of all, the computers have been in New Jersey for at least 20 years. That has nothing to do with this. The second thing is you could move the computers to Bora Bora and it wouldn't matter. The transactions are still taxable in New York because the Supreme Court has changed the law and we changed the tax law to make any stock transactions that are facilitated in any way in New York taxable here. So you may hear that, well, New Jersey was going to put in a tax and they threatened to move the computers to Texas. That's because all New Jersey has are the computers. That's the only basis for them to tax these trades. So I leave the handling of the Senate up to my colleague, Senator James Sanders of Queens. So I won't comment on that. In the Assembly, I think we've made remarkable progress. If you look at the list of co-sponsors, you will see that some of them are very close allies of the Speaker. I think, it's taken, the way the Assembly works is that, we have staff is very, very influential, central staff. And there are certain concepts that get passed on from, every 10 years and accepted as dogma. So when we first broke into this, we had to overcome that. I think we've made a lot of progress. The last time I talked to the Speaker about it, he indicated that, his mind wasn't made up as to what he was going to do, but which is a much better position than we have been in the past. And today I had a conversation with one of those people that I say, I'm not even going to talk to you except 3 words, stock transfer tax. And that person said to me, if we continue with this big budget deficit, you may just get it. So when you've got AFL-CIO supporting you now, this is in the mainstream.
That was awesome, Assemblymember Steck. Thanks for answering everybody's questions. I'm going to hand it over to George now, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Patrick. Thanks, Phil, too.
Thank you, George. Good to see you.
So my name's George Albro. I'm the co-chair of NYPAN, in one of the co-chairs in New York State. If you want to find out more about NYPAN, go to nypan.org. You could see all our endorsed candidates and our program, and you could hear more about the stock transfer tax and how we're fighting for it. I have the distinct pleasure of having one of the best city council reps in the New York City Council. Brad Lander has been in the council for 12 years, representing the parts of Brooklyn, Park Slope, Kensington, and other areas surrounding. And one of the first things he did when he got there is he teamed up with my other best friend, JUMAANE Williams, and formed the Progressive Caucus of the council. And as a caucus, they passed an incredible amount of legislation, sometimes against a lot of odds and a hostile mayor and a hostile leadership. And they got it done. And he was one of the big sponsors of the bill that reined in stop and frisk, along with JUMAANE. He recently, he gets arrested all the time in civil disobedience. I don't know who gets arrested more, him or JUMAANE. And he voted against the recent budget because it didn't defund the police. The speaker took it out on him for doing that, unfortunately. And he recently sponsored or was the author of legislation that is so incredible. It basically gave fast food workers the rights of union members because they cannot now be fired except on just cause. And if they are, they're entitled to an arbitration hearing. That is so mind-boggling and historic, and hopefully will be an example throughout the whole country. And if I wish I could just say that's the end, but I got to say one other thing. Brad is more than an elected official. He's an organizer. He's a born organizer. So when Trump won his first election, Brad decided to call a meeting of all the people who were upset about that. And it was 1,000 people that showed up. I was one of them. And those people were put into action and spend the next few years fighting for progressive programs and voting rights and all sorts of things. So he's running for controller. He's been endorsed by NYPAN. Mm-hmm. And tonight I'm happy to announce that he's been endorsed by Our Revolution. We're going to fight and make sure that he's the next controller of the city of New York. So, Brad Lander, you're on.
George, that was so nice. Thank you so much. And I hadn't heard about the art revolution piece of it yet. So now I'm celebrating extra. So that is really fantastic. That was a lovely introduction. It's so good to be with the people who are on this call. You know, I'm thinking at this moment, you know, that combination of fighting to win Georgia and, you know, give Democratic control, but pushing, moving the Overton window, demanding bold progressive change, and now in the ways that Anna Marta talked about, holding the Biden administration and our country to it. Really beautiful. Great to hear Phil and the stock transfer tax campaign. I'm just so proud to be your ally, grateful to have your endorsement along with a growing coalition of working families, Make the Road, New York Communities for Change, CWA, UAW. I really liked what Anna Marta had to say about the importance of fighting for progressive policies up and down the different levels. You know, George mentioned the bill that we just passed to establish just cause protections for fast food workers so they can't be fired on a whim and they can have the job stability that goes along even if you organize, and knowing that you can speak up if your boss harasses you. But that comes from a decade of organizing that a lot of us were proud to be and lucky to be able to work alongside fast food workers. You know, when they went out and marched for 15 in a union at the time, folks thought that's kind of crazy. And yet, because of their organizing, not only have they gotten $15 an hour, every worker in New York State, millions of workers around the country, they didn't stop there. They won paid sick leave. They didn't stop there. We worked together to win a fair work week so that they would have advance notice of their schedules and pathway to full-time jobs. They didn't stop there. We teamed up and won these just cause protections. That's the model of inside-outside organizing together with workers that has transformed those jobs from being contingent, low wage, no ability to speak up, to something that's full-time, that gets 15 an hour, that you know your schedule. It's the kind of organizing that I think Bernie wants us to be doing, and it was really proud to be an ally to them and to you in doing it. I won't go through the list of other things in the city council. George mentioned the work with JUMAANE on stop and frisk, brought participatory budgeting to New York City, have fought some fights for school integration, which was not easy to do, but we're finally making some progress in my district, District 15, where we've integrated our middle schools. And the last thing I'll mention in that vein tonight, because I saw that MOUMITA is speaking, some of you may have seen those horrible mailers that are being sent against her. She's got a nasty independent expenditure happening against her. I wish we could ban them all together, but for that, we're going to have to get back a majority on the Supreme Court to overturn Citizens United. But in New York City, thanks to a law I passed with strong progressive organizing and support, we have the strongest independent expenditure disclosure laws in the country. So Stephen Ross was one of the top 3 donors to those things. You know, he's one of the wealthiest real estate developers in New York, and he had to sign his name at the bottom of that mailer. Not as good as banning them, but the strongest independent expenditure disclosure laws in the country that we have. Look, that progressive approach is what we're going to need to win a just and durable recovery in the years ahead, to help millions of struggling families who can't pay the rent, who are standing in line for food, to save beloved small businesses and to rebuild our city's economy. Phil got at this a little, but I want to talk about it in terms of how we respond to a crisis, because we've seen better and worse approaches in our city's history. Out of the 1970s fiscal crisis, after 9/11, and after the 2008 fiscal crisis, we turned recovery over to Wall Street. We offered tax breaks to real estate developers and hoped that that would generate economic activity. And it did. It's just the benefits went to them. They did very well. The rest of New Yorkers got shafted. Housing prices rose. Inequality increased. Fortunately, that is not our only choice, because out of the Great Depression and after World War II, instead, New York City's leaders pioneered smart long-term investments in the subways, in CUNY, in NYCHA, in Mitchell-Lama. And those investments were the platform for our city's shared growth and success for decades. We can and must do the same today with investments in sustainable innovation, in a Green New Deal, in the care economy. I've got some big plans for how to do that. You can see on my website our bold climate justice plan for investing in a Green New Deal here in New York City. That means divesting fossil fuels in the pension funds. Great step taken yesterday when Scott and the mayor announced a $4 billion divestment, but there's still a long way to go because it's not just divesting from fossil fuels. We have to invest in clean energy and use our position as investors to make sure that companies also achieve carbon neutrality. And I've got a great plan coming tomorrow that you're really going to like. A bold social housing plan for New York City. Too much of our affordable housing program has been giving subsidies and land to for-profit private developers for a kind of temporary bit of some affordable housing. We need to get back to the model of what Mitchell Lama is: social housing, limited equity co-ops, community land trusts, nonprofit owned affordable and social housing. So watch tomorrow. We've got a great plan coming. You can find it tomorrow at landerfornyc.com. I'll just end by saying, to do all of that, for government to meet these bold, ambitious plans that we need for a future that's more sustainable, that confronts systemic racism, that gets us ready for the climate crisis, that helps us recover from the COVID crisis, we have to make government work better. Because government can't deliver on any of its promises when the agencies are run poorly, people don't trust it, when money's wasted, when corruption goes unchecked. And that's what you look to the controller to do. As the city's chief accountability officer, I'll undertake smart, hard-hitting audits of agencies from the NYCHA to the Board of Elections to the NYPD to make sure we've got a government ready to deliver for everyone, not just the wealthy few, and prepare our city for the long term to come. It means so much to have NYPAN's support. That fight against austerity economics and for a recovery grounded in equity and sustainability is the fight we are going to be engaged in the years ahead. And I'm really looking forward to fighting it alongside you.
Councilmember Lander, we have a couple of questions, if that's okay with you.
Of course, great.
Awesome. So I have two, maybe we'll have time, we'll see. So are you concerned from Brian Mangan? He asks, are you concerned about the calls for austerity coming out of the COVID crisis? And what will you do to make sure that needed programs are not slashed?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, so you hear that's part of my, that might have gotten posted in the chat before I said, I'm really worried about that. That is what has happened in the recent crises that we've seen. And it's our collective responsibility to do something about it. Some of that has to come from the federal and state government. Let's be clear. You know, it's the federal government that's got the ability in that Keynesian fashion, or if you prefer modern monetary theory fashion, to invest in the economy in the ways that only the federal government can. And that's why we were fighting so hard. People were asking me before January 6th, what's the most important thing you could do for New York City's fiscal future? And I was like, go make phone calls into Georgia, because winning the Senate was the most important thing we could do. So that's number one. We have to follow up and make sure those plans move forward and don't get watered down. Second, progressive taxation can only happen at the state level. We only have authority in New York City over the real estate tax, which is a clunky, non-progressive tax. We need to fix it, but at the moment, it's not an option for bringing new progressive revenue. So the stock transfer tax that Phil's talking about, and the other taxes to make billionaires pay so we can fund excluded workers, support our small businesses, you know, and recover from the COVID crisis. We got to fight for that in Albany. The thing I think we can, so at the local level, we got to shine a spotlight on things and make sure we don't shred the social safety net. When we have to make cuts, I'll give an example of a cut I lived with. I mean, I voted against the budget last year because it didn't cut the NYPD, which was where we did have room for some savings. But I supported the suspension of composting, of organics recycling. I was sad about that. It's a policy we need, but obviously not as critical as, you know, preventing people from being evicted or providing emergency food. The one thing I want to end with in terms of what the city can do is infrastructure investment in a Green New Deal, in infrastructure, in affordable housing. The mayor cut a couple of $2 billion last year out of the capital budget while, you know, holding the NYPD harmless. He cut affordable and supportive housing, infrastructure investments in our roads and bridges, a whole series of investments in NYCHA, and you know, we have room in our budget. That's what you're borrowing over the next 20 or 30 years. We actually, my office did a study. We have some room to increase long-term investment in distressed infrastructure like NYCHA, like our subways, but also the future infrastructure we need in universal broadband and especially in climate resiliency, rooftop solar, sustainable innovation and a Green New Deal.
Thank you so much for answering that question, Councilmember Lander. I'm very excited about your campaign. I'm going to hand it over now to Naomi, who's going to introduce some speakers from Manhattan.
So great to be with you. Thank you so much.
I feel like I've learned so much. Thank you for leading with the Progressive Caucus for New York City, and happy that you're being endorsed by NYPAN. So our next speaker is Maria Ordonez. She's also a NYPAN leader and a former Bernie organizer and a delegate. She's running for city council in Manhattan's 7th district. And we're happy to announce that she is being endorsed by Our Revolution, and she's been endorsed by NYPAN and by Grassroots Action New York. Maria is also the youngest person in history to max out the city's campaign contribution matching program. And, I think the coolest thing ever that I've heard Maria say is that, her office as a city council member is not just a place to print papers. It's a place where constituent services can go to the next level. So it's about giving people space to organize unions or to come together in whatever way that they need. So I'm really excited about Maria's ability to bring people in as a leader. Maria, welcome.
Thank you so much, Naomi, for introducing me. That's a wonderful introduction, and it's so great to be here. And, once again, hi, everyone. My name is Maria Ordonez. I'm running for City Council in District 7, and I'm honored to be here and be endorsed by NYPAN and Our Revolution. NYPAN and Our Revolution come from movements. They come from the Bernie Sanders 2020 and 2016 movement, and that's the movement I come from. That's the inspiration that I had, and I look up to the movement that Bernie created to run my campaign, because we need to build a movement at the local level. I'm running for city council because, for far too long, working class New Yorkers have been ignored, and we need to bring their voices to City Hall. And like Naomi said, my office will be open for everyone to come and organize, for you to come and unionize. And that's what we need in office. We need an organizer. We need an activist. We don't need a politician. Yeah. Thanks, Phil. I'm running because we need truly affordable housing. We need to fight for fully funded schools, and we need a Green New Deal for New York City and a just recovery from COVID-19. And I believe that we can achieve this together. We can achieve this through a movement. And, together, I know we can make this change. I think Naomi has a question for me.
Yeah, I wanted to know, can you tell us about what inspires you to move from activist to candidate, and what kinds of things you'll be able to do in that position?
Absolutely. So, before running for city council, I organized in my community. I organized in 3333 Broadway, where I was born and raised in West Harlem. It is the largest residential complex in the Council District 7 and one of the largest in the city of New York. And, I organized for tenants' rights. We knocked on every single door of that building. We spoke to people about the rights that they have. We organize around the issues that we face, small issues like, no hot water, or like the elevator didn't work, but we mobilize people. And beyond that, I also organized with Bernie Sanders, and, we fought for Medicare for all, for a Green New Deal, all of the issues that we can fight for at the local level. And, I was today at Night Chat with people from my campaign, and we were talking about what are issues that they face. And there's so many issues like repairs, lead, the elevators don't work. And those are the issues that really impact our communities. They're so small, but there are the issues that if we can fix that through a Green New Deal for NYCHA, through fully funded schools, all of these things will change people's lives. And my organizing experience is experience I will bring to City Hall. It's experience that we need in the city council. We do not need someone who's attached to the political establishment, someone who's attached to real estate or to corporate interests. We need someone who's going to come from the ground, from the 99%. Like Bernie used to say, I'm here for the 99%. It's not me, us. It's not about me. It's about the greater movement. And we're building a movement in every single corner of this district. And, we can do this together. And I'm so honored to be here. Thank you all so much. And I know we can make this happen. We can pass legislation that will secure a Green New Deal for NYCHA. It will secure a Green New Deal for schools that will fully fund, our schools. So no matter your zip code, you have the same education. And then we ensure we can guarantee truly affordable housing. And we transform these processes like ULURP. We transform our land use rezoning. and that we truly have transparency and accountability for each and every single one of these processes that has deeply affected our communities and caused gentrification all across the city of New York, and especially in our working class communities. And, I'm the youngest woman to be running for office in the city of New York, and we're making history every single step of the way. So I hope that you can join us. My website is www.mariaordonez.nyc. You can join me there and join us in making this history happen. We're very close to petitioning. It starts in about less than a month. So if y'all can join us, we can make this movement happen. Thank you all so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maria. I'm really inspired by your campaign, just being all about coming together to just solve very real problems in our everyday lives and to just make our lives and our world better. So mariaordonez.nyc.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, great. So we can get together and help get turnout and petition for Maria. All right. Our next speaker, Arthur SCHWARTZ, is also a NYPAN leader and is a candidate for City Council in Manhattan's District 3. And we're so happy to announce that Arthur SCHWARTZ is being endorsed by Our Revolution and by NYPAN. Welcome, Arthur.
I said, good evening. For me, this is an interesting position to be in because most people know me. I was Bernie's lawyer in New York in 2016, and I was, I was JUMAANE's and Cynthia Nixon's lawyer in 2018 and 19, and this year I was Mondre Jones's attorney in his race, or last year. So I'm usually the guy that works behind the scenes, and here it is now I'm running for office, and I have to talk about myself, which sometimes is not something I like to do. On Sunday, we had a meeting. NYPAN Executive Committee actually met with Chuck Schumer. People should know that. And he asked me when I said something on the screen, "Oh, who's that guy behind you?" So it says, "Not me, us," right? And we had a funny conversation about how that picture was a little young for Bernie. But I'm going to talk about myself, even though it's not what I usually like to do. I have been active I've counted only because of this campaign, for 52 years. In 1968, I participated in my first sit-in when I was a student. I was 15 years old at the Bronx High School of Science over student rights. By the next year, I was chairing the high school student moratorium committee and standing in front of 10,000 people in Central Park protesting the war in Vietnam. I went on to Columbia, where Maria is now. And while I was there, I spent most of my time organizing. I was arrested 3 times while I was there in various, and I would not call any of them civil disobedience. I was an activist most of the time. And I always make a joke that when I graduated and I applied to law school, I sent my application to Columbia and they wrote back across it, "Are you kidding?" But I went to law school and I plunged right into being a lawyer for activists. I represented hundreds of anti-nuke protesters at Indian Point and on Wall Street when they started fighting the nuke industry in the late 1970s. At 27, I was able to get a special counsel appointed because I exposed with some people in the union movement that the Secretary of Labor had been present when a payoff was made by a mob thug to his business partner. 20 years later, I sued Governor Pataki to get a local soccer field built on a pier instead of a parking lot, and won magnificent fields for people there. Throughout the 80s and 90s, I represented all sorts of activists in the union movement. I stood up to the mob in the Teamsters. I helped take down the corrupt leadership of 32BJ. I helped take down the corrupt leadership in DC 37 in 1998 and 1999. In 2005, by 2005, after I'd helped a group of militant opposition leaders take over the Transport Workers Union, they went on strike. And I was the guy that had to stand in court and explain to the judge why he shouldn't put them in jail, and then demanded a jury trial and delayed an injunction against the strike for 3 days while they negotiated a successful settlement of that strike. In 2008, I organized for Barack Obama when everybody else in New York City was working for Hillary Clinton. And and I got elected to the Democratic Convention. I was Zephyr Teachout's treasurer when she ran against Cuomo in 2014. I was Bernie's lawyer in 2016. As I said, I was JUMAANE and Cynthia's lawyer in 2018. This last year, when the governor got our presidential primary eliminated, I was part of a team of lawyers that went to court and got that primary restored, another lawsuit to get absentee ballots counted, and most recently I was in court defending against the Brooklyn political machine to protect ranked choice voting. In 2015, I was arrested for dismantling cameras outside of a 92-year-old rent-controlled tenant's apartment and was charged with grand larceny. Our city is in crisis. It's a crisis not only fed by the pandemic, but by a mayor who's failed to do his job, by a city council speaker whose chief of staff I'm running against, who just disappeared after being properly criticized for his lack of leadership after the death of George Floyd. I'm a fighter, I'm a community leader, I'm a parent, I'm a spouse, I'm a business owner. I'm rooted in what goes on in this city. I have been doing that for a long, long time. I know how to stand up to people in power. They all know me. I was the first candidate endorsed in New York City by Black Lives Matter. And my goal when I'm elected is to be the organizer in chief for my district. That's the title I want to give to city council member, organizer in chief, so that because everyone's going to know that I'm there. The issues that I'm focused on, housing. It's embarrassing to say that in the district I live in, Community Board 2, which I served on for 24 years, the last census showed that 2% of the residents were Black or Hispanic. 2%. Mississippi and Alabama don't have as segregated as communities as Greenwich Village and Soho. What this reflects is not overt racism, but what it reflects is the outrageous inequality in this part of town where the cost of housing is so astounding. I have fought around housing for 40 years. I've represented rent strikers. I've taken on developers. I've defended elderly people being pushed out of rent control apartments by greedy landlords. My arrest in 2015 was defending a 92-year-old rent-controlled woman who was being harassed by her landlord. I have a plan. I like to Elizabeth Warren's phrase on housing. First, affordable housing construction must be part of the city's capital plan. Brad talked about how money for affordable housing was taken out of the capital plan. There has to be more money put in the capital plan. Just yesterday, I heard that the city or the Port Authority or somebody is going to put $10 billion into rebuilding the bus terminal at 42nd Street. That $10 billion should be put into rebuilding housing, not rebuilding and building housing in this district that people can afford. Second, the housing program that we have in New York is awful. In New York City, the program we have is called mandatory inclusionary housing. That's where you give a developer zoning changes, you let them build tall buildings, and then you say make 25% of them affordable. But then they apply a formula to that so that in my district, in order to qualify for a one-bedroom affordable apartment, you have to make $71,692 in order to qualify for affordable housing. Doesn't work. A third piece of the problem that that I know we have to address is NYCHA. We have two developments in my district. I've been involved in fighting NYCHA for decades because I represent Teamsters Local 237, which represents the workers there. And I've represented tenants fighting against unfair evictions. We need a major capital infusion, no more talk. It's all talk. It's all hiding repairs. It's all hiding lead. It's all hiding broken boilers. It's all hiding sewage running down the walls.
Hey, Arthur, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Brian. We're running a little short on time. So can you put a bow on that for us and tell us the last thing?
I have plans. If you go to my website, www.arthur4nyc.com, about reimagining the NYPD, about funding schools, about expanding healthcare and stopping the closure of hospitals, and about making mass transit for free in New York City, which is part of my plan, about creating access to mass transit for the disabled, and also about fighting for more parks and open space in New York City. Thank you very much, and I'm very proud to have gotten this endorsement. And to be on a screen with Phil STECK, who's one of my heroes.
Thank you so much, Arthur, and to Naomi and Patrick for helping to moderate this so far. I mean, I think I speak for everyone. We are incredibly excited about both of your candidacies, and it's an honor to have you guys on. So the next person that we're going to introduce is another great activist that I actually know pretty well from Bernie circles. It's my pleasure to introduce MOUMITA AHMED, who is a progressive activist who started Millennials for Bernie, People for Bernie, the Bangladeshi Americans for Political Progress, and the New Reformers PAC. In 2020, MOUMITA helped to found the Queens Mutual Aid Network, which has served over 2,000 families in need all over Queens. And she also came within 60 votes of beating the incumbent district leader in Assembly District 24, which I can tell you is no small feat given the incumbency advantage here in New York. MOUMITA is now running for city council in the same district in a special election on February 2nd. And we're very proud to announce that she is now endorsed by Our Revolution and NYPAN. So welcome, MOUMITA.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brian. And so good to see Phil and Emily and Arthur and so many others, my family here, basically. I was raised by all of you. That's how I kind of see it as a young person. You've known me since I was, like 24, 25 years old. And it's really incredible to be endorsed by Our Revolution and NYPAN, both organizations that I've watched become, right? And it's really exciting because right now what we're seeing in District 24 is Wall Street attacking, spending thousands of dollars because when Bernie decided to not continue the election, I had a little Bernie doll that I was holding and they decided to mail that to thousands of people in my district when Bernie was going viral. So, you know, it's incredible that even till this day, progressive activists who are like me, who are representing renters, are being attacked. And that's why we keep going, because if not us, who is going to stand up to these billionaire interests? And, you know, I'm proud to have the endorsement and support of the Working Families Party, in New York Communities for Change, and so many progressive powerhouses. And that is the reason why I'm able to keep going, because of your support. Many of you know me from the work that we've all done together, but I haven't really talked a lot about why I'm running. Part of the reason why is because I grew up very working class, and that's one of the reasons why I was so drawn to Senator Bernie Sanders, because he's a champion of working class people. He was truly speaking to the issues that I cared about, that I was impacted by as a young organizer. My mom, she raised me and my brother on fast food salary, which is why I was so involved and such a big advocate of the Fight for 15 movement, which Senator Bernie Sanders at that time in 2016 was the only one that was supportive of it. And my dad, he still is working doing a graveyard shift at a factory packaging medicine. And they were, he became an essential worker during the pandemic. And I, a millennial, instead of starting my own family and moving on with my own life, I had to become the sole breadwinner. And in the past 5 or 6 years, have had to help my elderly parents navigate this very capitalist system that stacks the odds against where the odds are stacked against working class people like me. And, you know, Bernie and all of you gave me hope and inspired me to keep fighting and working for people like my parents who don't speak English very well, who have been negatively impacted by policies, supporting special interests and advancing the agenda of corporate interests, like the real estate developers. You know, we've been living in District 24 to 22 years, and we've saved up, but we're still unable to afford a home in the district where I grew up. And so these Asian, yet there's not a single city council person who is South Asian. So hopefully in this historic special election, I will become the first South Asian elected in New York State.
Hey, MOUMITA, I don't know if it's everyone, but I'm actually having a hard time hearing you, which fits well because I think time is up. But we're really excited to endorse you, our revolution in NYPAN. We're very proud of you and the campaign you're running. You may see in the chat, folks, that we are posting a link for the Our Revolution phone bank for MOUMITA's campaign, which is on Sunday at 6:30 p.m. So everyone, please click sign up and help get her across the finish line. Now I'm going to pass it off to Rapi Castillo.
Hey everyone, my name is Rapi from Queens. That's the Queens Globe behind me right now. So I'm super excited to introduce Manny Silva. Manny has been a community organizer and labor organizer for many years.
Really bad.
Oh.
My connection was really bad,
Sorry, MOUMITA. So through Far Rockaway, Arvern Nonprofit Coalition, and Community Voices Heard, he's encouraged youth throughout the city to take part in the participatory budgeting process. He's also worked with the worker-owned Rockaway Cooperatives Project, served as a community board for team member, and founded a 501c3 nonprofit, the Super Marvelous Society. He's running for City Council in District 31 in an upcoming special election on February 23. So Manny is endorsed by NYPAN. I'm so excited for y'all to meet Manny. Manny, take it away.
All right, thank you for giving me a little bit of your time. I'm happy to be here and happy to be a part of this, NYPAN and everything that they're doing, and happy to be a part of this meeting for our revolution. So I'm running for City Council right now because I love my city, I love my community, and I love my neighbors. And right now, we all have an opportunity to change the direction of the city. Right now, our city is being driven with profit and corporate interests as its motivating force. But we can change that and put people in the driving seat. We can put empathy in the driving seat. I am fighting for dignified housing for everyone because everybody deserves a space of their own. I am fighting for a new police system or a new public safety system that's comprehensive and has empathy at its core. I am also fighting for an educational system where equity is the focus, where you don't have kids in Manhattan getting more resources and more opportunities than kids in Southeast Queens. I am going to change the way we look at the City Council office. We are going to hire a program manager and really tackle some of the issues that our young people and each demographic in our community faces. We're going to begin organizing our Spanish-speaking community, where currently that community isn't even aware of the resources available to them in the City Council. We're going to begin building more locally owned businesses and providing more resources through SBS and through the allocation of discretionary funds for Black-owned businesses and locally owned businesses. We are going to start co-governance in the City Council by creating district working groups in each side of our district so that when we go and do through land use negotiations and when we're doing our discretionary funding, we are including the community from step one all the way to the final step. We are not taking money from real estate developers. We're not taking money even from lobbyists within the real estate industry. We're not taking money from police PACs. And we are going to leverage that and everything we're building to negotiate and have the community at the table while we're negotiating. We're gonna have a wall of accountability so that every promise we make during the campaign, any community member can come in and check on us and ensure that we are following those commitments. We are going to build people power by empowering our neighbors, by educating our neighbors, and by motivating our neighbors. And even if I am stepping out of line, if I'm blessed to be elected, they will have an opportunity to put me in my place or get rid of me. And that is what we're building. We're building a movement, and we're trying to bring progressive values that are already here in Southeast Queens. We're trying to bring them infrastructure, a home, and begin spreading the transparency as well as progressive values. So thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for allowing me to speak. And I hope you guys all can be a part of this movement.
Thank you, Manny, so much for spending your time with us. Unfortunately, we're a little bit behind, so I don't think we're going to have time for Q&A with you guys. And actually, this is perfect timing because I see that we're joined by the great public advocate, JUMAANE Williams. Hi, JUMAANE, welcome. I know you've only been on for a few seconds. I hope you don't mind me jumping on you.
Peace and blessings, peace and blessings.
Welcome to the chat, and we're going to let George Albro give you the right and proper introduction.
There is no introduction sufficient for JUMAANE Williams. All I could say is he is the soul of New York City. And I was never so proud of our NYPAN's early support for JUMAANE, who is a founding member of the Brooklyn chapter of NYPAN, as when the New York PD was beaten on all of the protesters who were peacefully assembling and protesting. And right in the middle of it all, trying to save people from being arrested and beaten was JUMAANE. That's what the public advocate was for. He's the number 2 person in the city government, but in terms of moral authority, he is unequaled. So I give you the public advocate of New York City, who is endorsed by NYPAN, and tonight I'm proud to say endorsed by our revolution, JUMAANE Williams.
Thank you so much. That's a pretty dope introduction. I appreciate that very much. Peace and blessings to everyone. Love and light. I know we're all going through some things right now. Happy belated impeachment day to everybody. Hopefully we see some fruits of our labors going forward. I'm excited to be here. I had to make sure I was here. Thankful to our revolution, NYPAN, who's been taking a journey with me for quite some time. When I ran for lieutenant governor, there weren't so many folks who were brave enough to support someone like me. NYPAN, our revolution, were one of them, and we almost took them out. We scared them to death. We almost took them out, but it helped me get to be the public advocate. I've been grappling with this word progressive for a pretty long time now, because everybody seems to be progressive. Governor Cuomo calls himself a progressive. So I think we have to try to find a new word, a new description. And what I really think it is people who are unabashedly progressive, but also who have the courage to go against systems that exist, that go against systems that perpetuate inequity and inequality, and go against establishment, quote unquote, establishment politics. That's what the difference is, I think, in the folks that we're trying to identify and the folks who call themselves progressive, but we're really not so sure what that means. We have to elect people who are willing to say this system that we have here, from the political to the financial, it simply does not work. It only works for a few people at the expense of everyone else. Now we have to elect people who are not just going to say they're about it, but be about it. And so they're going to have to challenge, oftentimes, county politics. They're going to have to challenge speaker politics. They're going to have to challenge mayoral or governor and leadership politics to move this forward. And I think that's what I don't know what the word is yet to encapsulate it, but I know everybody on here knows what I'm talking about. And I know that NYPAN and our revolution, not only looking for progressives, they're looking for people who are going to do that. And that's really what it's about. That's really what we have to focus on. Getting people whose position that they hold is not more important than the people they represent. People who are going to really throw down and risk, their political career. It's always fascinating to me when we talk about our heroes and we laud. We just came off of Dr. King's birthday, and people risk their lives, and we have elected officials who won't even risk their seat, won't even risk a title, won't even risk the most minimal of things at the expense of the masses of people in the city and the state. But I think we're in a spot where people are beginning to understand that. Sometimes we have collective amnesia, so I want us to grab it before we get to the amnesia. Grab that energy that's there now. The people are understanding this thing hold on, this thing may not be working the way folks said it was. And that's what we have to do. We have to grab onto that and look for those elected leaders and keep pushing them up and look for people who want to run. And let's just do it. So I believe in our revolution. I believe in NYPAN. As mentioned, I'm a founding member, very proud. I was a Bernie supporter early. Believe it or not, democratic socialism appealed to me since, I'm gonna say a name many may not know, Maurice Bishop, who was the prime minister of Grenada. So way back when, I understood that what we needed is really a revolution of ideas. Fred Hampton Jr. is going to be coming out. There's going to be a movie coming out of Fred Hampton Jr. and the Black Panthers. And in that, Fred Hampton Jr. has a famous line. He says, "The answer to capitalism is not Black capitalism." And that's important. So for some folks to understand, this is not just about representation and identity. This is about really changing a system. I don't want to replace the system. If I had a choice, it's important to have diversity, but we want to make sure we have people who are going to shake it up, and that's critically important. So I appreciate the time now. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to do anything else or take questions, which I'm happy to do, but I don't want to do too much into the order of things here. But I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for the endorsement. It means a lot to be with this crowd. So I appreciate y'all so much. Peace.
Thank you, JUMAANE. Normally you would definitely take up your time, but we're running a little late tonight, so you're off the hook. But thank you, because I learn something every time I hear you speak. Next, I want to pass it over to my co-host, Naomi, who's going to talk a little bit about the New York Health Act.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. And thanks, JUMAANE. I think it was really important what he brought up that, we use the word progressive and we use it over and over again, but it's like before we forget that beautiful moment that we had last summer that we're still having, where people are coming together and forcing change, we have to grab this moment and squeeze everything out of it that we can and keep it, help us use that to keep us going to continue fighting for justice. Because I think every day of every lifetime is going to be a fight for justice, even though the rest of the winds change course, over time. So the New York Health Act is just a way that I'm really excited about for this state to turn things around. God, this picture I really hate. On the left, this is United States healthcare spending, and it's just far and away from every other country. And on the right, it's US life expectancy at birth. Okay, what are we spending all this money on? Next slide. It's legitimately not clear where all of our healthcare dollars go to. They're basically just being wasted. And a lot of it's just inefficiency, and it's greed, and it's people's incomes, and it's shareholder profits. Even dollars that we think are going to the Medicaid program, we think are going to public, to like people with disabilities and with low incomes. A lot of that, like 25% of that dollars, is going to profits and executive compensation. We're not getting more physician visits per capita. We don't have more physicians per capita, but we're sicker. We have more chronic conditions per person. So the New York Health Act is basically Medicare for all for the state of New York. So what does that mean? No deductibles, no copays, no networks. Every single doctor is in your network, and it's free. It doesn't matter what job you have, no job, papers, no papers, none of it matters. Every single person would have universal, no paperwork, free access to every single doctor. It seems unbelievable, but it's so close to happening. It passes the lower house every year by a strong majority since like 1992. In the state Senate, as of last year, we had a majority -1 co-sponsoring the legislation. And for the first time ever, and Cuomo said he won't veto, but now that doesn't even matter because we have a super majority of Democrats in the Senate. So Cuomo can't veto anything anymore, even if he all of a sudden remembered that he's actually not a champion of the people and decided to veto it. None of that matters. We have a super majority of senators in the middle of a pandemic. So now is the time for this to happen. It'll be introduced in April or May. And that is basically the time when the revolution starts. So I'll see y'all there. Okay, it's been really great to talk to everybody. I think I'm gonna wrap that up on the New York Health Act, but if you guys have questions, definitely reach out to Our Revolution through NYPAN. We're organizing, we're making this happen for sure. So, who wants to talk about calls to action and upcoming calls? Should I go over that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Naomi. Thank you so much, everyone who was on this call, all the amazing candidates. Our revolution is so, so proud to support Maria Ordonez, Arthur Schwartz, of course, JUMAANE, Brad Lander. We are rooting for MOUMITA, of course. We have a phone bank. So I just put the link to that phone bank in the chat. She has an upcoming election, February 2nd. So get on the phones and hop on our phone bank to help her win that race. So I'm just gonna close today's amazing New York call with a couple of important calls to action from the national team. As you know, we have flipped the Senate, but we also need to fix the Senate. And that means we need to change the rules so that Mitch McConnell and his GOP now minority rule cannot block Democratic legislation any longer. We have just put out a full page ad in the New York Times. You see it on the slide. And we are working with Senator Jeff Merkley. We are working with Senator Elizabeth Warren and to fix our Senate coalition to reform the rules and end the GOP tactics to block bills aimed at helping working families. So that's important. You can join our fight. The link is going to be put in the chat. It's a Fix the Senate petition to get the Senate working again so we can make progress on all of our priorities, whether it's healthcare, climate, voting rights, racial justice, and other issues. We are also calling on President Biden to use his executive power to break up monopolies, corporate monopolies, and reverse Reagan-era antitrust policies. This is also great, important action and petition you can sign on to join us in our fight. I guess the link is going to be in the chat for you. Of course, another way to support our work is purchasing our amazing Bernie sticker that I spoke about at the beginning. Again, just $5 or $10 if you get one for your friend as well. Will get us so far if we get enough from a lot of people tonight. So please purchase our sticker, help our organizing work, because we are present in every state of the country and we are doing great, amazing grassroots bottom-up organizing work everywhere. And as you will see in my next announcements, we are holding similar calls all over the country. Tomorrow, we are holding a call with Senator Jeff Merkley. He is going to talk about For the People Act as he kicks off the Our Revolution Oregon state call tomorrow. Then we are going to go to Massachusetts. And that call is Saturday, January 30th. There will be a legislative session for the Massachusetts team to talk about their progressive priorities. So that's another amazing call you can hop on. And these are all upcoming calls. This is an amazing event with all of you tonight. I'm so proud again of all the endorsements we rolled out, of all the work we are doing in New York. And as usual, thank you to all of our donors, all of our volunteers, all of our supporters, and all of our helpers tonight on this call. Brian, Naomi, Rebecca, you were amazing, all of you. And again, to all of our candidates, good luck. We will be there in the trenches fighting with you. We usually close our calls with a chant. We have a signature chant. When we organize, we win. So at this time, I would like to invite all of you to unmute your microphone and say it with me. When we organize, we win. One more time. When we organize,
we win.
Good night, everyone.